There's a long one. Nothing but net. Oh, my goodness. Didn't see that coming. I'm diddly dee.
Yeah.
Hello. Welcome to another episode of All Nat, brought to you by OTS. I'm your host, Natalie, but most people call me Nat. And today I'm excited because I have Nathanael, who many of you may know from the timeline as NJ, joining me to discuss the Warriors' upcoming game with the Celtics. I feel like you're one of the Twitter followers, like that's on NBA Twitter, where like everybody follows you, like from each fan base. Like you like, you know, sometimes there's like rivalries and divisions and, you know, like there's just, but I feel like you're like, I feel like everyone in every fan base follows you or interacts with you. So that's probably a testament to you and how cool you are, because I know that's not the case for me.
You know, pretty much, man. Like, I get along with most people. Like every fan base, I just love to talk about basketball. So like, I'm sure with pretty much everybody. Yeah.
Right. Yeah, that's what I observed. That's very dope. So very good guest for me to have on today, because you know you're a Celtics fan, but you're, I guess, pretty neutral. I don't know if neutral is the right word, but you definitely like you don't annoy me. You know, sometimes, not that it matters if you annoy me, but I don't think you annoy many others just by the sheer fact that I see, you know, you are with everyone. So I don't always wear Warriors, you know, stuff on here. Sometimes I do, sometimes I don't. But today I had to. It was a special night last night, and I was at the game. I was in attendance to watch Stephen Curry break, you know, the 3-point record. And it was amazing. It was I don't know, it was like an out of body experience, you know. And I've gone to a lot of NBA games, and this was special, you know. And like I woke up this morning still thinking about it, and you know, a lot of people from Dub's Twitter have been like asking me about it and wanted me to do a whole pod episode dedicated to it, which I won't. But I mean, I want to touch on it briefly. So did you watch the game last night? Because I felt like everyone watched the game last night.
I saw the majority of the game. I was kind of going back and forth between that game and the Raptors Nets game as well. But I definitely, especially like the first quarter, I knew Steph was gonna break the record after like the first quarter. So yeah, I watched the majority of the game.
You watch? And I mean, I don't know, because like you're a Celtics fan, but like you're an NBA fan too, I suppose. And so like what, you know, I've just been talking to Warriors fans all day and finding out like what it was like for them. But what was it like for you watching as like someone who's just like appreciative of the NBA? Like, did you have any feelings around it?
Man, just as a ball fan, like Steph has been one of my favorite guys from the get go. Like when he dropped, I can't remember how much many points it was like 50 something on New York back in like 2013. That's what basically put him on the map, right? And everyone
Right.
saw how good he was. So just to see him do that last night, you know, it was just amazing. Like I was literally screaming after he hit that second three. I just posted to my Instagram. Yeah, I snapped. It was amazing.
That is so dope to hear, because I always think I'm crazy sometimes when you get excited in your home, and I know we all do it for our teams, but that's dope to hear, like that you were screaming. Oh,
Mhm.
that makes me so happy. That's dope. Love.
Yeah.
I appreciate that. I mean, obviously we were screaming in the building, right? I put up the video because I actually got to the game. First of all, I don't get to many places on time, and that includes NBA games that I pay for. I'm definitely one of those people that rolls up like, oh, I'm here, second quarter, let's go. But I was like, I knew I was not gonna do that for that game. So I was adamant about getting there on time. And we walked in like it was 7:31. And I was saying to my girl Jay, I'm like, oh yeah, finally, first time I think I've ever been at an NBA game on time. I can't believe, you know, I'm here on time. And then right then I look at the screen and I see the game already started. I was like, what? Like, when do games, they never start right on time, like ever.
It's true.
And especially like a national TV game, they never start right on time. And so like we're walking to the seats, and then like I see like Steph about to pull up, and I'm like, oh shit. And so like I stopped to watch on the screen because I'm like, I don't want to be walking and miss something. And then he hits the first one that ties the record. I'm like, Now we start running. We're running to like our seats because we want to get there. And we got in. Actually, first we went to the wrong section. And well, because like I was like in section 210, I believe is where I was sitting. And so I think I was one section wrong, like over. So we went up in there and the guy's like wrong section. And then like something was happening. And so we stopped and we're looking. He's like, you guys can't stand here. I'm like, man, F you. Like, I'm not like missing, this. But nothing happened. So then we went out, we ran again to get to our section. I was so happy I made it. The moment I got into my seat, I just kept the phone on record because I was like, you don't like it's gonna happen so quick, and I don't want to have to be like fumbling, with my camera. So I was able to capture the moment, everything. I was like, oh my God, this is it. It like goes in, and like the whole arena erupted. Like everyone around me, they stood up. It was just like the whole arena erupted. It was so incredible, and I will not tell a lie, definitely cried, definitely shed some tears.
Okay.
It's like, it was just amazing. I'm sure that's the way Kobe fans felt like for his last game. I think obviously when you're a fan of the NBA, you like all things, but I think like when it's your guy, your fave, your player, it's also like, oh man, because so many people were like, nah, I'm so happy for you. Like, wishing me congrats, like that I got to experience that. So it definitely was a moment for me. It's one of the best experiences I've ever had. And then I met Sonia Curry.
Oh, wow. Okay.
Just randomly, she was walking out of MSG the same time as us, and we got a picture. And I'm like, Steph's mom. So it was a crazy night, yo. It was amazing. Definitely one of my favorite things I'm gonna always have with me. So anyway, there you go, Dub's Twitter, because a lot of y'all are asking me to recap, tell you what happened. So there's a recorded version. It was everything you could have imagined and more. It was everything like it looked like on TV, plus more. I don't even think, honestly, NJ, that I watched the rest of the game. I mean, I was there, but I can't really tell you what happens like after that. I'm not even exaggerating. Like, I really like I don't have a recollection of that game. I know it was low scoring. I know they were struggling to score because it's a back-to-back. They traveled the same day because they have plane issues. Yeah. So there was just like so much going on. But I'm like, oh great, we won, thankfully. But I have no sense of what happened in that game. So that's how euphoric and crazy it was. And you know what? Like, I don't know, like everyone's just like, of course, like it's obviously poetic with it happening at MSG, but I think it also would have been dope if it went down in TD Garden. It didn't, but it was looking like it could have, because he wasn't going to play in Indiana. And I believe the only reason they did end up playing in Indiana is because they lost that game to the Sixers last Saturday. So it made it like, I don't think they wanted to get into like a real big deficit with the Suns right there. Cause I think that they want to have the best record in the NBA, or at least in the West. And so like, if you would have like, went in there and not played your guys, I don't think they were coming out with a win versus Indiana. They're not like Detroit. So, because I was like, wow, because I don't know, like if he didn't go to Indiana, it would have been 7 for MSG, and I wasn't sure if he would hit that. So I was just like, yo, could you imagine him doing it in like Ray Allen's, like, I don't know if do you consider that like Ray Allen's home, since he's been to 3 different teams? Like, how do you, what's his legacy like for Boston?
Ray Allen, I mean, it took a while for
and went to the Heat, which I did not appreciate. So I'm with y'all. I think
it took a lot of us. It took a lot of us like a while to forgive him for that.
Have you forgiven him, really?
I'm kind of over it, to be honest. Like, it's been like how many years now? Like 8 years. So like, I'm kind of over it. But there are still some Celtic fans I know they're still salty about it. But at the end of the day, he was part of the reason that we won a championship. So you got to give it up for him for what he did for us. But if you look at his legacy, I think honestly it's really it's basically his kind of 4-part career, because he started off with Milwaukee. That's when he was a great player. He was more than a 3-point shooter there. Went to Seattle, great scorer there. Boston, 3-point specialist. Miami, everybody remembers him for the shot that he hit. So it's like when you think of his career, I think it's more so you think of Boston and Miami just because he won the championships there, but he was great everywhere he played. So
Hmm. Wow, I would have loved to have done it in Boston there, but oh wow, I was fine because I'm going to that game too. So I would have seen it either way. But do you think if it would have happened in Boston that like they would have appreciated there the same way like MSG? Because Knicks fans have this gut-wrenching love with Steph because they were going to pick him. The Warriors drafted right before them and they were able to grab him. They had their eye on him the whole time in that draft. So it's just pain for them with Steph Curry, but they also like still show him love. So I don't know. Do you think like Celtics fans would have been the same, would have received the moment the same way?
I think so, definitely. I think no matter what, wherever Steph played, whatever, if he was in like an away arena, everybody would have appreciated. Like, there's not many people around the league that don't respect Steph. So no matter where he broke the record, he would have still got that same appreciation. I think so.
Yeah. Well, it did happen. It's finally behind us, so I'm excited and I got to witness it. But we have Celtics up next. I'm glad my guys finally get 2 nights of rest because they need it, but I'm definitely looking forward to that game. You guys just came off a pretty big win versus the Bucks, right?
Yeah.
Um Tatum went for what, 44 in that game?
I think it was 42 around that. I'm pretty sure.
42?
Yeah, I think 42. Yeah.
Over 40 though, right?
hmm
So that was big. And he's been a little up and down this season. So um, we'll get into all of that. But I am looking forward to the game. You live in Canada, right? Do you live in
Yeah.
Toronto? Do you actually live
I'm
in
like I'm like
Toronto?
outside. I'm like in the outskirts of Toronto, probably like an hour away. Like, but I'm close to Toronto.
Okay. And so I only asked that because for one, you're a Celtics fan in Canada. So how did that come about? How did that come to be?
So pretty much, I always tell people I became really a fan. Like I grew up a Raptors fan. If you're from Canada, you have to support the Raptors. And it was about like when we first got the big three with KG, Ray Allen, Paul Pierce. The reason why I love that so much is that you had three Hall of Famers that couldn't win a championship on their own. They came together to win a championship. And just from that point in time when they won a championship, I was hooked. Just
Okay.
like, yeah, the KG Pierce era, and then just seeing all the different eras we've had. Isaiah Thomas era, the Tatum era. I've just been a fan for like the past 15 years, pretty much.
Okay. So do you like root for the Raptors second and the Celtics first, or is it just like the Celtics are your team?
It's Celtics first. Like I support the Raptors. They're not really like my team per se, but like I still support them at the end of the day. I want to see them do well. When they won the championship against your team a couple of years ago, like I was super excited because it wasn't just for the Raptors; it was for all of Canada. So that was an amazing thing.
Okay. So I don't know if you saw the notice that went out like for the Toronto Raptors that they're going to limit the capacity at the arena
Yeah.
there for the next game, which is interest. Well, I understand why they're doing it. I'm interested to see how they're going to even approach like who are the 50% of the people that they're going to say no, you
Mhm.
can't come, right? Because they already have
Mhm.
tickets. But people have it's been coming up like daily now. Is the NBA gonna go back to a bubble? Are they like, what are they
Yeah.
gonna do? So this is kind of like a hot topic. I don't expect anything to happen anytime soon with the US arenas. That's my guess, just because the US, you've seen how we've handled COVID. So
Yeah.
I know I know I know that Silver got a lot of respect for the bubble, but
Mhm.
they haven't seemed to express any desire for the bubble. And quite frankly, I don't think a lot of the players like the bubble either,
Mhm.
being away from their families and stuff, which is understandable. So, I don't know that anything's going to be happening soon, but I mean, what are your thoughts on that? Do you think we should go back to the bubble? I mean, what do you think the NBA is going to do?
It's tough to say. Like I just posted a couple days ago, I don't think they're ever going to do a bubble again because the players are not going to co-sign on that. Like they're not going to be in a situation where they want to, be isolated for like 3 months at a time, like we had in the bubble before. So I don't think that's ever going to happen again. And I'm supposed to go to the Raptors Warriors game this Saturday, so I just pray that my tickets are still good. So it's really tough to say what they're going to do. Like if they're going to,
Oh man,
yeah.
seriously? I hope
Yeah,
I'm
yeah,
gonna pray for you, like for real, because that sucks. That news must have been like, what for you?
yeah,
When did you
yeah.
find out?
I literally just found out like about like half an hour ago. Like I was just checking my Instagram, my feed, and then I saw that post. So I was just hitting up my boy. I'm like, yo, I hope this doesn't affect anything with our tickets. So we just gotta wait and see.
And did you guys buy your tickets together as a pair?
Basically, I think he bought his tickets earlier than he bought both of our tickets, and yeah, so he did that. It
Okay,
was like
when they
about a
were
month
about
ago
to,
or so.
yeah, because I'm like, that would suck if you guys got separated, but you probably had to buy the tickets together at the same time.
Exactly. Yeah.
Oh man, I'm seriously, I'm gonna pray for you because like that sucks. I hope. Oh, I'm curious. But
Yeah.
once they do, well, I mean, I'm sure they'll probably announce how they're gonna choose. But like, I'd love to know, like, when they like when you find out like whatever they're gonna do. I'm curious. I'll be
Hmm.
curious to know. Um,
Okay.
I definitely hope you get to go. Yeah, I mean, I don't anticipate anything happening. I really don't in the US. I think they're gonna just go back to increasing the restrictions for players. Cause I mean, to be honest, they're not really concerned about us fans. They haven't like they don't even know like if anything is spreading once fans leave. It's not like it's being reported, but I think for the players, they're probably excuse me. They're probably going to go back to some of those old restrictions. I'm
Hmm.
guessing like masks for everyone. They're probably going to start testing vaccinated players and not allowing the players to kind of like get close again and all that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
So we'll see. But it's I actually think the NBA dropped the ball. Like I never understood why they loosened all the restrictions, like just because you were vaccinated, because we all know like just being vaccinated alone isn't enough. So I
Hmm.
thought it was like an odd thing to do. And then
Yeah.
now these outbreaks have been crazy. It's like last night, every day I'm just like, wow. Like I'm like, another one keeps popping up. I'm like, what? Like I didn't even know the Nets were down to 8 because I'm like all trying to get ready for the game. And I'm like, what?
Yeah.
They only have 8 guys. Like this is insane.
Yeah.
Oh man, I was about to say, I don't. Did you watch that game last night? The Raptors and
Yeah.
Nets.
I was trying to watch some of it too. I saw like more so some of the fourth quarter and overtime as well. So that was a pretty good game. I mean, yeah, like KD he's the man. Like, he just no Harden, basically missing half of their team, and then they still won that game. So yeah, I
And they
watched a
were
little bit.
leading by a lot, but then the Raptors got back in it, right?
I think so. I think there was one point that yeah, the Raptors were up by a certain amount, then like Nets went on like a 10-0 run or something like that in the overtime, something like that. But yeah, both teams they were up at one point.
Okay. So to the main event, to Celtics Warriors, because that's what's coming up. And I feel like no matter what your personnel is, the Celtics Warriors games are just always good, right? Like
Oh,
I mean, in the last few years, have we had any bad Celtics Warriors games? Like, I can't remember.
honestly, like I'm trying to think of the last one that wasn't great. Like even when Kyrie was there, him
That
and
was my
Steph going
favorite
back
one
and
when Steph and Kyrie were going back and forth.
yeah.
That was
Mm-hmm.
special.
Mm-hmm.
But I mean, even
Even
last year, like Tatum, he stepped up and I mean, he went toe to toe with Steph and you guys got that W. So,
yeah.
um, these games are really good. So I'm expecting a very good game. Will Jalen be back?
Yeah, Jalen, he played the last game, so
He
like I
did?
think his
Okay.
hamstring, yeah, he's good now.
I'm happy about that. How did he look in the last game?
He honestly looked pretty good. Like the first time he came back, we knew he wasn't like completely ready to come back. Like he was still like holding his hamstring. But last game, I didn't see like any. Went to there was one part that he bumped knees with one of the players, but like he was out for like a couple minutes, came back in, but he looked good last game though.
So there's so many different things I want to get into with you about the Celtics. So hopefully we have enough time to cover it. I am a fan of the Celtics. Like I always call them my East Coast team. So I mean they're not the Warriors, they're not my team, but I do love the Celtics. And like you, I developed a liking for them during that era, the big three plus Rondo era. Um and I really have like kept up with the team because I really like them a lot. So I was actually with you guys like fuck Ray Allen. I did not appreciate him leaving. I still don't care for Ray Allen.
Mm.
um so there's it, you know, I'm curious, were you against Ainge as much as like some people were? And then like, how do you feel Brad Stevens is doing so far as a GM?
With Ainge, I was always like 50-50 because we have to understand is that after the Pierce and KG left, he rebuilt where we only missed the playoffs once during that time. And then we're able to quickly rebuild. We got Isaiah Thomas. And because of the Nets trade, we were able to get Jalen and Tatum. So you can't really hate on him for that. He brought us a championship in 2008. He got us the guys that we have now. The only time I really started
And you guys
criticizing
should have
him,
won more, I thought. I thought that team should have
yeah,
won
yeah,
more. So like people, I
yeah,
always see people on Twitter get mad, like these guys talk like they won multiple rings. And I get it, but they were that caliber of team,
yeah,
like KG doesn't get hurt one of those years. And um
exactly.
they were a really great team. They really were.
Mhm.
And then it really sucked because right when he was probably about to like do special things, then Lonzo got tore the ACL. So they
Mhm.
had some really crappy injuries at like the worst
Yep.
time.
Mhm.
So I'm sorry I interrupted you, but you were gonna say you were talking about
Oh, it's
Ainge
okay.
and
I think where I started getting a little mad with him was right after we lost Hayward. So Hayward obviously went to Charlotte in free agency. That season, we didn't really do anything to get better. Like, Kyrie left us, Horford left us at the time, Hayward left us. So after that, I mean, the best free agent moves we did that season, we signed like Tristan Thompson and Jeff Teague. So we weren't going anywhere that season. So since that point, we've been trying to get back to, contender to be a good contender again. And just from that point, I just wasn't really a fan of what he did after that. But everything before getting Tatum, Jalen, et cetera, that's what I was a fan
I see. So do you like the coaching hire? Because I know there's been some chatter around that. And are you pleased so far with like Brad and the job he's doing?
So with regards to the coaching, like it's so tough to say because I don't want to put like, too much pressure on a rookie coach. You can't really expect much. I mean, obviously with you guys, Steve Curry, you guys won a championship at his first year as a coach, but that's not going to happen with every single coach at the end of the day. So there's been a lot of growing pains with Udoka so far, but give him at least a couple seasons to see what he's capable of. Yeah, so he's been doing okay so far. And sorry, what was your second question?
Brad, like how do you feel about the job? Well, did you like Brad as a coach, and did you think it was time for him to move on? I know he was kind of over coaching, but I mean, I know like the kind of the outside perspective is that he was elevated by the media and like he
Mhm.
didn't really deserve that elevation and he didn't really do anything. But I don't know how Celtics fans actually felt about him because I liked Brad. I thought he was a really good coach. And
Mhm.
I thought honestly he did probably the most he could do with that team. Like there was never a time that I thought the Celtics had the best team in the East. So like if
I
there's
agree.
always another team better, how much further than the Eastern Conference Finals do you guys want him to go? Like in some cases,
It's,
you guys overachieve. So
it's
I
true.
don't I that was my thought on it. But
Mhm.
I don't know that the fans saw it the same way, but I know lots of outsiders saw it differently.
I would agree completely. Like he's basically overachieved with a lot of teams that we had. Like you look at the Isaiah Thomas era when Horford first got there. We had Horford, Crowder, Isaiah, Avery Bradley, where there was no way that we are going to be a legitimate contender. Like, you still had the Cavs there with LeBron, Kyrie, so we weren't going to win a championship. After that, I would say, we made the Eastern Conference Finals, I think it was like 3 times in a 5-year span. But really and truly, we were never really considered the best team in the Eastern Conference. The only year was when was Kyrie's last year, where we had an amazing roster where everybody was favoriting us to go to the finals. And we just had complete chemistry issues. That's when the Raptors won the championship. That was probably the only year in the Brad Stevens era that we could have actually went to the finals, and we saw what happened that year.
Right. Yeah, I like Brad. And so I don't have any sense of like his job, what he's doing as a GM. It's probably also too early to evaluate him, but like, were you pleased that they
Mhm.
kept him and he moved up in the org?
Yeah, I had no problem with that, to be honest. I mean, like, yeah, just keeping him within the organization. He was a great coach, so moving him up, I didn't have a problem with that. And thus far, what honestly, he's done pretty solid. I mean, the fact that, we got rid of Kemba to get Horford back was a great move. One thing I will say is that he did luck into getting Shooter, because if he didn't get Shooter, we wouldn't have really had that much depth. So getting Shooter was great. Not paying Fournier was a great move as well, because he's been looking terrible for the Knicks. But he's done actually a pretty decent job so far. That's it.
Are you guys going to go after Brad Bill? Is that what he's waiting on?
That's what they're saying. I think just because of the connection that Beal and Tatum have, that's probably the plan for next year. If you look at free agency for next season, I think the only people that are going to be free agents, you have Beal. I don't think Levine has signed an extension yet, and I don't think Harden signed an extension yet either. There's no way we're getting Harden. I doubt we're getting Levine. So if we are going to get a top free agent next year, it's going to be Beal.
And he's been struggling a little bit this year. Do you think that's just like they started, like the Wizards were playing really well, and then now they're not playing as well? But Beal specifically has been struggling a little bit. So does that concern you at all?
Not really. I mean, you have great players that sometimes they have years where they have slumps. Tatum started off the season terribly. He's been doing well now. So I think probably you're going to see in the second half of the season, Beal will pick it up. And if he comes to the Celtics next year, it'll take the pressure off of him, because let's say he signs as a free agent, you can keep Tatum and Jalen, then Beal's not going to have as much responsibility to be the top scorer on the team. You can spread the points around. So I think he'd be fine.
Now, I mean, you probably need both of these things, but I mean, do you want them to go after Brad Bill? Because that's going to be a big contract. And do you think he's the right player to do that for? Because you guys still need a point guard, and he's not a point guard.
Okay. So I think personally, there's two routes that you can really look at. You can either look at getting another top star, and like I said, Beal's probably the only free agent you can be looking at for next year. Or what we really need is just to get some more three-point shooting. If you look at the team in general, we don't have a lot of guys that can shoot the three. If you can get someone, a caliber of a Joe Harris type player, I know Duncan Robinson hasn't been doing great this year, but someone that can basically come off screens and hit threes, that's what we need. So if we're not going to look at a three-point shooter, like I said, the only other all-star caliber player for free agency would be Beal. So if we go either route, I'm okay with that.
So you don't think you guys need a point guard to work things out between Jalen and Tatum? Because I think you do.
I mean, if we do need a guard, who can you really go after? Because if you look at the landscape of the I mean, you're going to still run into the same situation where Smart.
By the way, I'm not a fan of Ben. I want to see what you think.
That's tough. I mean, obviously Simmons is a much better player than Smart, but you're going to run into the same situation where you're going to have another guard that can't take shots either. He can't make shots. So to be honest, I'm okay with Smart being the point as long as he learns to calm down with his shooting. I'm okay with that, because his responsibility is to get the ball to Jalen, get the ball to Tatum. So I'm okay with that. In the meantime, if there was a better point guard available, yeah, for example, Ben Simmons, I'd be okay with that. But in the meantime, I'm cool with Smart being the guard.
Yeah, because I mean, you don't really got to worry about Ben, because he doesn't want to take the shots. He wants to give up the ball. But
Exactly.
I mean, the whole Jalen Tatum debate, it's a yearly thing. One, who do you think is the better player?
I'll go with Tatum. I think if I were to say, let's say Tatum is a 10 out of 10 player, Jalen is probably like a 9, somewhere similar to that. Tatum is a better player, but I don't think that there's this humongous gap like some other people think.
Okay. But you want to keep both of them, or do you think they need to be broken up?
They don't need to be broken up. The whole plan, when you look at who wins championships in the NBA, you want wing players to win championships. We've seen with Kevin Durant being the best player, in my opinion, on the Warriors. We've seen with Kawhi win the championship for the Raptors. If you can have capable young wings that can help you win a championship, that's what you need. So it's all about getting a third guy to complement them. If you break them up, you're obviously not going to get somebody as good as Jalen to bring back to the team. So if you can get a third guy to complement those guys, that would be the best thing to do.
Okay. Normally, I let people say their opinions on here, and I never push back, because that's what this is about. But on Steph Day, and that's what today is, I cannot let it slide that you called Kevin Durant the best player on the team. So this one time I'm going to break my rule. But no, I understand why you think that, and a lot of people did. I think the point is that you definitely need wings, and you need good wings to win. I don't know that they need to be your best player, but you definitely need them. But there's still a limit to what they're doing as wings. They're both super talented, And so I think there's validity to the argument that like maybe they're underachieving a little bit together. And I really think a point guard would do them justice. And you're right, it may not need to be a Ben Simmons level player, but I think you guys need a point guard. But you're saying that Smart is enough. You think that he's enough to be that guy.
Basically, what I'm saying with that is that if there was another option to upgrade from Smart, and let's say you move Smart to the bench as a 6 man, or maybe just put him back to the 2, and you can get an upgrade, I'd be totally fine with that. But as currently constructed, I'm okay with Smart being the starting point guard. I'm cool with that.
So why did you say we're not getting James Harden? Because I had another guest on who is a Sixers fan, and like people were just like, things don't go too well in Brooklyn this year. And that's like 2 years in a row. You think there's any chance Harden leaves? I mean, I would think Philly more than Boston just because that was one of the other targets, right, initially. But I don't know, maybe he becomes more open-minded. But I mean, if he was on the market again, based on how he's playing this year so far, would you want him to be a target? Like, would you want Brad to go after James Harden if he's like, I'm not going to resign with Brooklyn and I'm going to, see what's out there?
To be honest, as long as it didn't really hinder the rest of our team, like let's say you sign a Harden, and then you have to get rid of a lot of our role players. I don't know if I'd be in favor of doing that, but if you can still keep most of our core together, like I said, as long as you have a third guy to go along with Tatum and Jalen, I'm totally fine with that. We know Harden at his best has been a top 10 caliber player. This year he hasn't been, but in Houston, to me, he's always been a top 5 player in the league. So if he chose Boston for whatever reason, I highly doubt he would choose us. But if we were able to get him, I wouldn't have a problem with that either.
Okay. You're kind of like your takes are like the same way you like everything you're saying is like, yeah, this is definitely the guy I see on Twitter, like it matches your personality. I don't think my Twitter persona matches my actual personality.
Okay.
It's part of the reason I pod, but I also pod because I enjoy talking about hoops like all the time. I could just like sit down and do it all day. But everything you see, you're just like, oh, well, it could be this. You're pretty like fair, reasonable, just very, very easygoing. It's refreshing. Refreshing from the timeline, because you know how it can get on there.
For sure.
So what are you looking forward to in this game between the Warriors and the Celtics? I'm going to be in the building, so I'm super excited about it. But I mean, what are you expecting to see?
I think we're probably going to get another game that's just crazy that goes down to the wire. I mean, as a Celtics fan, I wish they could destroy every single team that they play, just beat everybody by 30, but, that's not going to happen. So I think it's going to be another situation. You're probably going to see Warriors at some point be up at like 10-15, just like the game last year. Celtics will, make a comeback, and then probably by the fourth quarter, they're going to be battling it out. I'm not sure who's going to win. Of course, I hope it's the Celtics, but it's going to be a back and forth game.
Who are they going to put on Steph? Marcus Smart?
I would say so. I'm trying to think of who typically guards him. I think it's Smart, as far as I know. He probably shares some responsibility. Maybe Schroeder and Smart will guard him, or maybe they'll switch with some bigs on him for a little bit as well. But I think Smart will probably have the main responsibility.
Okay, yeah, I don't remember in the past games actually who guarded him, but I was wondering if someone like Jalen, would they ever would put Jalen on him for a little bit. But I'm thinking, no, it's probably going to be Smart, but I'm not sure because I also don't know enough about this coach to know like what he's thinking. So let's talk. I want to talk a little bit more though about like what's been going on this year with you guys. Like, why do you think it's been so up and down? Is it just the inconsistency from Tatum and having Jalen out, or like what else are you seeing?
I think it's been a variety of factors. Yeah, number one, Jalen being out has definitely hurt us. I think we're like 7-7 this year without him, so that's definitely been one of the factors. Tatum starting off the season very slow, that really hurt us as well, because if Tatum is playing like his normal superstar capable self, then obviously we're going to have much better of a chance to win games. So even at this point, I think he's shooting still like about like 42% from the field, which is not great by his standards. He's shooting around like 33% from the three, which is not great either. So that's been one of the factors as well. Another thing is just the lack of shooting in general. Like there's not a lot of guys on our team that can really hit the 3-point shot. Grant Williams, I mentioned the other day, he's actually been very good this year. He's shooting about like 45% from the 3-point line. But outside of that, Romeo, he can hit the three. Horford has not been a great 3-point shooter this year. He's traditionally a great shooter. Yeah, there's not a lot of shooters on the team.
It's funny.
And
I
I
was going
think
to
some of
ask
it,
about Horford. I know you thought it was a great pickup, and even though he's not shooting the three right now, are you still feeling like it was good to have him back on the team?
oh, definitely, definitely. Even though he's not shooting the three ball well, he's been doing everything else great. He's still playing great defense. He can still play make, set up other guys for easy shots. So he's been great. Overall, I would just say, yeah, it's really a combination of the lack of shooting. Missing Jalen has definitely hurt. Tatum, now he's finally found his groove for like the past 10 games or so. He's been fantastic, but those have been the main factors, though.
Okay. So what do you think is the ceiling for this team this year?
I would say the maximum would probably be, I'd say, maybe a second round. If we get really lucky, maybe the Eastern Conference Finals. The only reason I say that is that I don't think we could beat Brooklyn or Milwaukee in a series when it came down to it. If you look at any other East team, I'd say, we fare well against like maybe a Miami or Chicago potentially, but when it comes down to Milwaukee or Brooklyn, we couldn't beat them. So I'd say the East Finals is probably our absolute maximum. But if I'm being realistic, we're probably going to finish maybe like a fifth or sixth seed. We're probably losing like the second round, I'd say.
Okay, so you do think they'll be better than a play-in team?
Yeah, definitely.
Okay. I could see that. I could see that. I of course would love them to go far. Just because, like I said, for whatever reason, Warriors and Celtics games are always really good. It's like an underrated to me matchup because they're always really good. But yeah, I mean, I think probably still it's the Bucks or the Nets to come out the East. Like if we're being real, like sometimes people say Miami, and I think it might be, and then I don't know. They're like kind of like up and down too. I mean, they're not like a 500 team, but like sometimes they look like a powerhouse, and they're like, and then other times you're like, what's going on? So
yeah, it's true.
I'm not really sure what to think about them. And Kyle Lowry looks to be struggling a little bit this year, or maybe not struggling, inconsistent this year, a little more so than normal, I think. So I'm not sure what to think about the Heat. And I don't know if there's any other sleepers in the East that I'm missing. I don't think so.
Chicago, you can't sleep on Chicago. They look legit. If everybody's, I know they've had all the COVID, et cetera, but like
They
if everybody's
do.
playing,
They do.
yeah.
I think Chicago's better than people are giving them credit for. I think they're like a real team. And it's remarkable because they've lost some of their guys for the season who, like, what would they even be if they had their full complement of players? So
Exactly.
the Cavs are an unexpected surprise, huh?
I was
Right?
not expecting that. Yeah, they look good.
Have you had the chance to watch any of their games this season?
I haven't seen too many of the games, to be honest. Of course, I watched the games where they faced the Celtics, where they look good there. But I know the team that they have, just in terms of the moves they're able to get. Jared Allen. Why am I forgetting the guy's name that just came from Chicago? But Darius Garland, the different players that they have a lot of great young talent. I know they lost Sexton for the season, but just the pieces that they have, Kevin Love as a veteran, I really like what they're doing this year.
Yeah, their Rubio came in there, and I think everyone thought Rubio was gonna be like a what's the word I'm looking for? A buyout. I think people thought he was gonna be a buyout candidate, and it's like, no, we're good. He's not going anywhere. And then it looks like they may have the rookie of the year. So they're pretty impressive. I think that's like a neat story for the East. And it's interesting because everyone, like, for a while, even I was looking at the East and like, oh, the East is like really deep. But now it seems like some of the teams that may have started hot are like leveling off, and it's like, okay, maybe they're not as deep as I thought. So you're right. Like outside of the top two, maybe the Sixers. I mean, I don't know about them either. Like, I don't think that they're coming out without Ben. But they appear to still be a really good team, even though he's not playing. So they could maybe end up in the top four. But I think the clear top two in the East are the Bucks and the Nets, not necessarily in that order. And then I think the other teams, like, I think y'all are close. So, depending on matchups, like, you're right, you could end up like getting to the East Conference Finals or whatever. I think I agree with that in full.
Mhm.
And what about the West? What are your thoughts on the West?
Oh man, the West. If it has to be a conference finals of Phoenix and Golden State. Like if we don't see that as a
Really?
basketball fan, I'm gonna yeah, it has to be. Like
So you don't believe in the Lakers? I mean, I know the whole Celtics Lakers rivalry, but you don't believe in
the
them.
thing with like I've been saying like on Twitter the whole time, like even though they've been struggling, like number one, I can't count out LeBron. Like as long as they make the playoffs, LeBron can go crazy in the playoffs. So like I can't count him out. And there's gonna be some point in this season where they go on like some type of stretch where they win like 12 out of 13 games and everybody forgets that they struggled. I think that's still gonna happen at some point. Maybe they'll make some trades, by the deadline. Not sure what they can really do, but I just feel like eventually at some point everything's going to click where everybody remembers that, they're still one of the top teams in the West too.
Now, let me ask that question. Is that solely based on LeBron, or do you really think that they have the potential to be a good team? So what I mean by that is like, I know that no one wants to count out LeBron or say like, it's not possible. So even sometimes when you're looking at things, you're like, you really should have never thought this because like on its face, it's not, but because it's
Mm-hmm.
him, you're just like, well, maybe. Is it that, or do you really think like these pieces that they have can really be a good team?
I think it's a combination of both. Like the roster itself is decent. Obviously, Anthony Davis, he has to man up and be better. Westbrook, he's been coming along better. Started off the season struggling, but he's been looking better as well. You have some decent veterans and Melo off the bench. But really, if you look at the history with LeBron, as long as he's been healthy, we've seen what he's been able to do all these years. Even when he first got back to the Cavs, I know they made trades to get, Jared Smith, Shumpert, Mozgov. They started off this season, I think they were like 20-20, something like that. By the second half of the season, they were great. We saw back in 2018, they made trades for Jordan Clarkson, et cetera, et cetera. They became, a great team as well. So as long as LeBron is healthy for the rest of the way through, I honestly, I just can't count the Lakers out.
Okay. But you think it's going to be a Warriors Suns Western Conference matchup?
I think so.
Western
Like
Conference
I'm leaning.
Finals.
I would say right now, I'm like, if they're healthy, probably that's like I'm at least 80% sure of that, and I hope that's what we get. The only other teams I could even potentially see in that spot, Utah, maybe. They look great in the regular season. That's another thing in the playoffs. So I don't know about that, but those are the only other teams outside of Phoenix and Golden State. Maybe the Lakers and Utah. I still have to put them in that conversation too.
Okay. Okay. That's all fair. I don't believe in Utah. I don't care what anyone tells me.
Yeah, I don't really.
I don't believe in them because they don't have
Yeah.
that guy. Like you need one of those guys and they don't have it. So it's also why I ultimately don't believe in the Suns. I mean, I think they're a great team, but Devin Booker is their best player and Devin Booker's great. So I don't mean it like that, but I don't even know if we're counting Devin Booker yet still as a top 10 guy. So I'm not sure. I didn't, but we know who the first five are, and Kawhi's out right now. But
Mhm.
if you add in Kawhi, we know who the first six are. So then it's
Mhm.
like after that, you're talking about like, is Anthony Davis still in there? Will he be in there after this season? Harden is another one, right? If you included them, that would be like about 8 guys. I don't know where people are going to rank Luka after this year because his honeymoon seems to be over. You have people like
Mhm.
Trey Young who are stepping up. Paul George is having a good season too. So I just don't know. It's kind of hard. Like, I mean, if Booker was in you have Embiid still. I didn't even say him. So I don't know. I think Booker, I think Devin Booker, yeah, I think he's a top 15 player, definitely. Where
Mhm.
he falls in that 11 through 15, I'm not sure, but I don't know if I quite have him top 10 yet. So that's your best guy in that series versus the Warriors who have Steph. Right. I always look at who the best player is in the series, like first.
Yeah.
And then, both have like a really good team. But I always look like who has the best player on the floor and
Mhm.
and sometimes those players balance like offset each other, right? Like if it's a Kawhi on the other side, if it's a Bron, if it's a Giannis, if it's one of those guys, then fine. But if you're not in that tier, then I usually give the advantage to the guy, the team that has that guy. And Utah does
Mhm.
not have that guy.
Yeah.
And the Suns don't either. So, but I would like to play them because their fans have gotten a little out of hand now. They're really feeling themselves. And so I want to play them. I do. I do. I would like to see that. Well, yeah, no, I think that's it. I'm just trying to make sure there's nothing else I want to ask you because like I said, there's a lot going on with the Celtics and
Mhm.
I think they're a really fun team, but like the comments that Marcus Smart made earlier in the season when they were losing, like was that an
Mhm.
issue for you or did you like him calling out the guys like that?
I don't think I had a problem with of what he said. It's the fact that I don't think that was really necessary publicly because, first off, I don't think we really heard Tatum and Jalen necessarily being receptive to that. I think they kind of just brushed it off and they basically said that, you could have kept that in house. If there's things to address, sometimes you have to be public with it. But in that case, I don't really think you need to say that publicly. Just keep that, between you guys and just move on from there.
Do you think Tatum is a good leader for the team? I've never heard anything bad about him, but I mean, and maybe leader isn't even the right word, but I mean, if he's your best player, do you think you guys can win it all? Or is he a number two, masquerading as a number one?
I would say Tatum has top 10 player capability. So right now, if I were to rank him, he's always been, or like the past couple of years, been like in that 12 to 15 range. So similar like you mentioned with Devin Booker,
I agree.
he's somewhere in that range, right? But I believe that, we've seen him drop 60 points. We've seen what he's done, the playoffs, et cetera, et cetera. He has that potential, in my opinion, to be somewhere in that, top 5 to top 10 range. So if he ever gets to that, then yeah, we would have the potential to win a championship. Jalen, on the other hand, is more so maybe I'd say 15 to 20 or so is probably his cap. But yeah, with Tatum, definitely I'd say up to top 10.
Okay, that's fair. So, is there anything I should be surprised about? Because I mean, people are always talking about our interior defense and it's gonna bring us down. Hasn't brought us down yet. But you guys have Williams, right? That's what's his first name again?
We got two Williams, Robert and Grant.
Robert. There you go. So he's been like, I was just seeing there grabbing boards and just doing a lot. He does a lot. I'm like, this guy's gonna annoy me during the game. I know it because he's gonna be grabbing boards from Looney. Looney can't even jump and lift himself. Good Lord. But he won us a game in Indiana. So
I saw that, yeah.
and so I said no slander of Looney for the rest of this road trip. So I'm not gonna get on Looney. But I mean, Robert Williams has been pretty good for you guys, I don't know. I could be wrong, but I see him playing a role, like a part in this game. Cause we haven't been having that much trouble with like teams that have like bigs because even though people were going on and on about the Suns in that game, like when Ayton was like eating inside, they were just feeding him. We went on a run during that time. So like, and we're actually a really good rebounding team. We do it like collectively, but we're a good rebounding team. But the last couple of games, like Sabonis was getting us. And who did we play right before that? It's escaping me, but whatever team we just played, and I remember I was getting really annoyed because I'm just like, this guy keeps getting all the rebounds. So I'm curious to see what's gonna happen with Robert Williams. I think Tatum is gonna. Well, I don't know. I mean, I'm thinking it's Tatum just because of what he did last time, but maybe this time it's Jalen's turn. I don't know. You remember a couple of years ago, him and Steph had that little like back and forth on the
Yeah, I
court,
remember. Yeah, I remember
right?
that. Yeah.
So I mean, I like that they don't back down, but I don't know if it's going to be a Jalen game. Have like what I've noticed with the Celtics, like I don't feel like they've worked out like when they close, right? Because like if Jalen has it going, I see like Tatum coming to close when he's cold, and that doesn't make sense to me. Why doesn't Jalen just get to close if he's been hot all game?
Yeah.
And have they figured that out yet so far for the season?
With that, I think primarily, if you're just thinking of the overall aspect of having the ball in the best player's hands, usually it's going to Tatum down the stretch, depending on what we're running.
Even when
Let's
he's
say if
been
we have,
cold all game. Does that make
I've
sense?
seen it. I've honestly seen it. Even if he's not having a great game, one of the criticisms of Tatum is that like his shot selection. For the most part, he shoots the ball well, but like he takes bad shots. He takes step backs over three guys. Yeah. So overall, like
Awful
even if
shot
he's had,
selection. I mean,
yeah,
do you think it's improved or not? Because I'll watch games sometimes. I'm just like, why is he doing this? And it like drives me crazy.
it definitely has improved. I think the funny thing is like his first season in the league, like he was a great shooter. He wasn't obviously the go-to guy on the team. That's when he had Kyrie. His second year, really after he was filling himself after, he dropped like 18 points per game in the playoffs, was facing the Cavs, et cetera, et cetera. That's when we really started to see like the bad shot taking. I think his second year in the league. After that, it calmed down a bit. By his third and fourth season, he was taking better shots. You still see traits of it, from here and there, where sometimes, yeah, he takes a lot of bad contested fadeaway shots. But for the most part, I say he's under control now.
Okay. So they like to go to him to close no matter what, because he's the perceived best player on the team. I still
Yeah,
think that's
for the
up
most
for
part.
debate, but so one of them are gonna go off. I don't, like I said, I don't know if it's Jalen's night, but I mean, I think teams always like step up to play the Warriors. And
Mhm.
is that a national TV game? Let me check. I don't remember. Probably is. We have a lot of those. So I mean, in terms of like, I'm just trying to think about the matchup. Is there anything else that you think, like I said, Robert Williams, to me, I feel like he could possibly be an X factor because of the rebounds. But outside of that, I mean, Marcus Smart can be a little bit of a pesky defender, so I wouldn't ignore that. But outside of that, I'm not seeing anything about the Celtics that worries me too much. Do you know like where their offense and defense is rated? I didn't get to look it up before I started the show today.
I would have to check the stats. I'm not sure what it is as of today. Like I know for a while, like our defense was in the top five recently. I'm not sure what it's down to now because our West Coast road trip was terrible, where teams were scoring a million points in it. So I don't know what that is right now. Our offensive rating, I'm pretty sure it hasn't been that great. It's been like maybe 15, 20-ish, but don't know the exact stats though.
But you guys have worked your way up into maybe being like a top 10 defense for a little bit of the
Yeah,
season.
exactly. Yeah.
So you can play defense, which I know that. Like that doesn't surprise me. So what, like, is there anything that concerns you about like the matchup, like playing us this week? Steph has been in a slump, so at some point he's gonna come
Yeah.
out of it. I would love it if it's um on Friday. I'm sure you wouldn't, but I'm curious to know.
That's exactly what I was talking to one of my boys. I'm like, yeah, Steph has been in a slump recently. So if he doesn't go off against the Raptors, then it's going to be against us. So I'm hoping let him cook against the Raptors, but I don't want him to destroy us. But yeah, I remember last year, I don't remember how many points Steph scored in the game in Boston last year, but he absolutely went crazy in that game. So you always got to worry about Steph. Jordan Poole is my guy, so I'm assuming Poole is going to go off as well.
He's your
In
guy,
the
you said?
yeah, I love Jordan Poole.
Oh, you're a Jordan Poole
Yeah,
fan?
I'm a Jordan
Okay.
Poole fan. Yeah. So yeah, outside of Steph, just having to worry about Poole, and you guys have great role players as well that can hit the 3-point shot. Porter, Bielitsa. So yeah.
Were you a fan of Poole before he came to the league, or you just like saw him on the Warriors and kind of liked him?
The reason what I like, because I even talked about on my podcast the other day, similar to Cameron Payne, where Cameron Payne, for example, wasn't great for the majority of his career, and now he's been hooping with the Suns. Jordan Poole, I know his first year he was terrible that year. He shot like 30% from the field as a rookie, but then the season after he improved, and now this year he's dropping like 18 points per game. So I love when players, if they start off struggling, but then they're finally able to find their feet in the NBA. I love seeing that.
Okay. Yeah, it's a national TV game on ESPN, so I already know everyone's gonna be amped up for the game. Oh, that's nice. You like pool. I like when people like our players. We have our pool party thing that we say about him. So
Okay.
when he gets going, we're like, oh, it's a pool party. So yeah,
Mm.
he's been amazing for us. Like that was like one of the best things to come out of the 2 years of like, just all the injuries and everything we dealt with. So yeah, it's gonna be a good game. Tell us the name of your pod so my listeners know to check it out.
Oh, no problem. So I just started about like a week ago. So it's called the Step Back J podcast on YouTube. So Step Back and then Jay, because I go by NJ. So Step Back Jay.
Okay, because I was just like, I didn't know you had a podcast, and I'm like, have I missed this all this time? So I
literally
definitely
just started it.
Okay, and what made you decide to do that?
I think it was honestly my wife was really encouraging me. I've been watching basketball my entire life. And you see me on Twitter, that's all I talk about pretty much. 99% of my tweets are about ball. So I'm like, let me just turn it into videos, just talk about balls. So that's why I decided to do it.
Okay, and so is it just on YouTube? Is it a video pod only, or do you have it like anywhere else?
Video pod for now. I don't know if I'm gonna translate to like Spotify and things like that down the road, but right now it's just on YouTube.
Okay, definitely send me that link on Twitter so I can subscribe. Sure. And is it a solo pod or are you with someone on there?
Solo for now. I'm doing solo.
Okay. And does it focus on the Celtics or the NBA at large?
Pretty much everything. Like some conversation to be, how the Celtics are doing, but like, yeah, I talk about pretty much everything. I just talked about the Warriors and Suns, who I think is, the king of the West. That was my last video. And my first video, I was talking about how the Celtics have been doing so far. So I'm going to be talking about a bunch of different teams.
Oh, that's exciting. Yeah. I mean, you guys definitely check out NJ. As you can see, the vibes, like he's cool. He's just, so opposite of me. I'm so passionate and excitable and many things. So definitely thank you for joining me today and coming on and giving me your thoughts. And hopefully we get the W. I know you want it, but I would like our I hope we get a good game, but we get the win. And I know you want the win. So we both want the same things. But listen, go subscribe to NJ's podcast, check it out, and give him a follow if you're not following him, because you know that you're going to be getting at least objective takes, because he's not too, he's, as you heard, he's pretty realistic about his C's. NJ, thank you for joining me. Thank you for being on. Okay. Is there anything else that you want to let us know about before you go? I know that you have music, right?
Yeah. I just dropped my latest album, I think November 12th. It's called Man on a Mission. It's available everywhere. Spotify, Apple Music, pretty much everywhere. So you guys just go listen to that as well. And like I said, I got the YouTube channel. So yeah, just go like, subscribe, and support.
No doubt. All right, everyone. I hope you enjoyed this episode of All Nat. Don't forget to subscribe on YouTube, follow on any streaming platform, rate, review, 5-star reviews. Give me your comments, your feedback, all of that. It's really welcome, and it helps me out as a content creator. Until next time, guys, take care.